for the children, I showed this really fun optical illusion, and I want to share it once more, and then we're going to look at another one. So Ron, if we can zoom in down here on the board. So we were showing how our eyes can often deceive us. So we have these two tables that look like they're different sizes, and it looks like we have a narrow one and we have a short kind of squarish one, but we notice that nope, they're actually the exact same size, that our eyes can actually deceive us. So this was a pretty cool illusion, and we were looking at this to remember that we aren't always right, and sometimes we think we are, but we need to be able to change our opinion when the Lord tells us something different. Now, I want to do or show you another fun illusion. And the way we're going to do this is look at, excuse me, get my pen, is to look at this over here, this shape. It looks like kind of like a tuning fork almost. And imagine what it would look like to go to the end of this shape. So I think I would put it like this. I've got squiggly writing today. So I would think that it would kind of end like that. So it looks like there's just two of them, right? But the reality of this illusion is kind of cool because it's actually, this is called the impossible trident. So somehow, even though this looked like it was supposed to just be two, somehow it turns into three, and it doesn't really work. If you look at this end, it looks like it's still two. So where does that third prong come in? It's pretty amazing how these illusions work for us. We're going to read a story, something that the Lord told his disciples. And it's actually about, he's talking to them about difficulties with our family, difficulties with our brother. And it's talking about if your brother sins against you, here's what you're supposed to do. And so the Lord was telling them, what's a process they can use to become friends again, to love one another again, to care for each other again. And you might be at home and have a big family, and we're all in these tight quarters together, and maybe sometimes we get on each other's nerves. And sometimes we get frustrated with each other, especially when we're always in the same group of people and hearing the same jokes or having the same things go on, and, we can get pretty frustrated with each other. And so the Lord is trying to give us a way to learn how to reconcile those problems or learn how to forgive one another. So this is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18, beginning at verse 15. It says, "Moreover, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he hears you, then you have gained your brother back. But if he will not hear, take with you one or two more, that by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he refuses to hear them, tell it to the church. But if he refuses even to hear the church, then let him be like a heathen or a tax collector to you. Assuredly I say unto you that whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you that if 2 of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them." Now, there are some hard parts of this that maybe only adults would be able to get, but I want to look at this in 2 different ways. The first thing is making an effort whenever we maybe hurt somebody else or are hurt by somebody else to not just lash out and, do something mean to them back, but maybe come to them and say, "Hey, that really hurt me. Whatever you said or what you did, it really hurt me, and I'd like for us to be friends. I'd like for us to be siblings and love one another." So that's kind of that first step of go tell that person what they might have done wrong and how it hurt you. The second thing is actually then to maybe even involve somebody else that knew what happened and say, this really did hurt. And this person is trying to help me show you how much it hurt. And we can also think about how talking to the person that might have harmed you and go to them and say, look, the Lord really wants us to love each other. That's kind of like bringing it to the church, is bringing in these ideas that the Lord teaches us. And then at the very end, it says this interesting thing, where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there I am in the midst of them. And doesn't that kind of work like this impossible trident? Or maybe when we're coming together as human beings and loving one another, that even though it might just feel like it's just the 2 of you in a room, that the Lord is there amongst us. And it kind of demonstrates that with this impossible trident. The same thing is true if we think about when we know how to do something and we know it's also good. When we try to do things that are good and we know how to, it's bringing together what is good and true. And that action is actually where the Lord comes in. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there I am in the midst of them, is about bringing together what is good and true in our lives. And that actually brings the Lord's presence and love with it. So that's our lesson this morning. I hope everybody has enjoyed and learned a little bit, and just really focus on how in these times where we're really cooped up together, that when we do get on each other's nerves, when we do bother each other, that we really go back and say, I'm sorry, or to approach the other person and say, let's try to do this better. Let's try to really love each other through these times. Amen.